Welcome ladies and gents, my name is Curci, and today we're going to be asking the question of, is Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor a game changer? I'm going to start this video off by saying this. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor is probably one of the most fun, most immersive games that I have ever really played. In all my years of gaming, 24 years of playing video games, I have never played a game quite like this. Shadow of Mordor has a really good combat mechanic. A combat mechanic that is very much inspired by the Arkham games. The animations in the combat, the parrying, the striking, the flurry attacks, your special moves, the adding in with the rage powers, it all just looks awesome. It looks like somebody who is wielding a sword would look like if they are in the Lord of the Rings universe. And by the way, I am one of the biggest Lord of the Rings fans you could possibly find. Lord of the Rings Return of the King is by far my all-time favorite movie. Well, let's talk about the story. In the land of Mordor, that's where the game takes place. That is where the enemy is, where the bad guys are. You play as Talion. He's a ranger guarding the Black Gate because at the time, enemy isn't really around. So we're going to guard the Black Gate to make sure that they don't come back. But spoiler alert, yes, they do come back. I mean, big waha. Talion, his wife, and his son all get murdered. Yes, all three of them are murdered. Talion, however, returns. He's not dead. He's banished from death and actually bound to this other spirit, this kind of ghostly figure. The figure is an elf named Celebrimbor who used to live like hundreds or thousands of years. I'm not really sure how long ago it was. But Celebrimbor is actually unsure of who he is. At the time, he doesn't even really know what his name is. In the meantime, Talion, because you are basically playing as two characters, Talion is trying to get revenge for his family. He's going after the big bad guy that murdered his wife and murdered his son. But in order to do that, he needs to build an army. He needs to build an orc army. Orcs are the creatures that take up the majority of the evil army. And the way the game puts the culture of the orcs into this game, it is just, they nailed it. Orcs are jerks. They are all about like power and pride and strength. They fight each other so that they gain the favor of their betters and maybe even be better than them. So they are all fighting each other for power. They're all trying to like ambush each other. Some of them will duel each other. Some of them will be fighting native wildlife. It's a very cutthroat society. It's like, hey, I killed you. I take your place because clearly I'm better than you. You don't deserve the role that you have, so I'm gonna take it from you by murdering you. Now, the game is centered around this nemesis system. Around it are these story. I mean, the story of the game isn't all that great. It's there. I mean, it's not like the Evil Within bad or Destiny bad. It's good. It's decent. It's there. But the really good combat mechanics added in with the really good setting and the way that they went about it, the nemesis system is so perfect. You see, at the meat of this game is that you're creating history with these NPCs, these enemies. You're creating rivalries between you and code is basically what's happening. I can tell you so many names of orcs that I have had encounters with, and the game actually makes me remember the names. Fulgrim, Zumug, Ratlu, Tugog, and Feldush. These are all names that I remember. Just generic names that they threw on a generic orc, but because I had history with these guys, I actually remember them. And with each of those names, I have a history. Zumug is a guy that used to be a bodyguard to this war chief named Feldush, but his other two buddy bodyguards actually served me, so that when I gave the order to betray them, he actually was murdered. But in the end, he actually wasn't murdered. And in the middle of this big battle that was going on between one war chief that I controlled and one war chief I was trying to take out, Zumu came back and tried to murder the guys who murdered him, who also actually happened to be at the battle because those were the war chief that I actually used to fight the other. It's a complicated story. But then at that moment, I hit Zumug and I was like, you know what? You are too much of a threat. I need to make you one of us. Then I sent him to murder somebody else, and it's just the history that you get from these orcs, it sticks with you. It's really good. I said that the story of the game was actually, it was decent, like it wasn't anything special. It's pretty forgettable actually. But in my opinion, the real story of the game was the one with the orcs, the rivalries that you were forging. It is unlike anything that I've ever experienced. Yes, I have connected with NPCs before. Games like Mass Effect, games like The Walking Dead. Those games, I connect with people, but on a very good level. Some of them, I hate you and I want you to die. But I don't know, with Shadow of Mordor, it's just something unique. It's not the same. I guess because you know that it's like almost somewhat random. Like this is not the same story that other people are having. Other people are having rivalries with other orcs. But I love how the game incorporated the orc culture into the gameplay. You have to actually play the way that an orc would think so that you can advance in their ranks. The way I look at Shadow of Mordor is almost like a board game. You establish your pieces, you have them overtake enemy pieces, and then make them so that they are in a more powerful position. It makes you feel like you are dealing with politics, but on a very aggressive level. The game's also open world, and you know what? It's a very good open world. And you want to know why? Just like with every other game that has had a good open world, it's not just about having a lot of things to do. It's about making the stuff that is there worth doing. Because what is in Shadow of Mordor? I will tell you, it's the story missions. It's like little challenges so that you can get money, so that you can upgrade your character. And then there are these power struggle missions. I mean, there are also technically vendetta missions that if, let's just say, I die to Feldouche, now Nessie Monster can come in and fight Feldouche so that he can avenge my death. I mean, it's cool, but it really wasn't something I was very interested in because everybody that had Shadow of Mordor was playing it on the PlayStation 4 and I was on the Xbox One, so a lot of the people that I really cared about really weren't linking up because they weren't playing the game. So it was basically just random people, so I didn't care. But so we were back to story missions, challenges, and the power struggle missions. 3 different types of missions. I mean, yeah, also collectibles, but I don't really count collectibles as things to do. But even the collectibles were interesting because there's like a sense of lore. There's like almost like a little bit of a story with that, but not really. No, it was actually really interesting. When I saw a collectible, I went after it, but there were some collectibles that I saw that I was like, I don't really feel like going after that one. Basically, the way I would approach any game with collectibles. I mean, if it's there, maybe I'll grab it. Otherwise, if I'm doing something, I'm gonna screw it. But I was so preoccupied with the power struggle missions, making sure that when my orc, the one that was under my control, was recruiting followers, I had to make sure that he was getting the followers, that orcs that were trying to kill him weren't killing him. I had to make sure that when he was dueling another orc, that he would win the duel. And then giving him orders to betray his master so that he could become the new master. Playing the game with the politics. I was so... hours, I'm talking about hours here of most of the time I've spent in this game has been dealing with this nemesis system and just being engrossed by it. You could argue that like the encounters where like, yeah, my sword clashes up and now you have something to say to me. Honestly speaking, I've never really seen 2 orcs repeat the same line, which was something that I was worried about. So I guess that actually helped in avoiding the like repetitiveness of it. But I mean, yeah, you could technically argue, I mean, some people have argued that the game does get repetitive with its orc encounters, but that's not the way that I felt. I was so engrossed in what I was doing, creating these rivalries. The game has no consequence. When you die, the game still continues. Even when a like standard orc, one that you could just one hit with a special move, if he kills you, all of a sudden he could get promoted to captain. After you die, time passes, you see like the enemy is getting promoted, some are killing each other, they like challenge each other. Power struggle missions will get settled and you just start to see things play out. But then you come back and then you can re-encounter it because a lot of... Fulgum was the guy that killed me first. He was the first orc to ever kill me. Then I went after that guy and he kept evading me. Like he just kept avoiding me. He would always flee and get away. And I was always like, I'll get you one day. And one day I got him. If you saw the Let's Play, you actually see the start of a story, and I actually included some other parts of it, but I did not include the end of it. In the Let's Play, I was trying to take down Feldouche. He was a war chief. In order to do that, I need to get control of a captain named Ratlug. And he, when I first encountered him, was in the middle of executing this other orc by the name of Tugog. But because I was going after Ratlug, my encounter with him actually allowed Tugog to escape. And then after Ratlug became the new war chief, I had Ratlug and another war chief battle it out with their 2 forces. And when the one war chief died, who other than Tugog became the new war chief? The end of this story that I didn't include in the video is that Zumug, the same guy that was the bodyguard to Feldouche that Ratlug and a guy named Bolg actually betrayed, he comes back and I kill him then, but I didn't really kill him. He actually got away. And then during the fight between Ratlug and that other war chief, at the end, I see Zumug actually trying to kill this guy Bolg who actually killed him. Then I got control of Zumug and I said, you're gonna go kill the bodyguard of Tugog because Tugog is not getting away. So Zumug killed the one bodyguard, I got the other bodyguard under my control, and then he betrayed Tugog and actually killed him. So there's a storyline that ends with that battle. Like, yeah, it feeds into other stories, but for that story, the story of Tugog, I like to call it, I encountered Tugog, he escaped, and then he returned as a more powerful character. The game has repercussions. You have to consider what you're doing. It's like, is that guy going to be a problem? Maybe I should take him out now and deal with my target. Oh my God, I could tell you story upon story upon story, and we could be here all day. You have to understand, this game is fantastic. Even if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, don't even worry about the fact that you're not a Lord of the Rings fan. If you just like a good game, a game that you've never really experienced before, especially if you like the Arkham games or even the Assassin's Creed games, it feels very it feels like the love child between the Arkham games and an Assassin's Creed game, and if they just had their kid in Mordor, you would get Shadow of Mordor. And obviously the game is setting up for sequels, which I'm hugely excited about. I want to see this Nemesis system come back, and even better, even bigger. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's a Game of the Year contender, and it's a Game of the Year contender on multiple people's lists. Play it. Just play Shadow of Mordor. Just play it. That's what I'm telling everybody. Everybody, play Shadow of Mordor. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. and I will see you next time.